And we are live. Welcome, people of the interwebs. I hope a lot of people will come up and say hi to us back. And we are live. At this point in welcome, people of the interwebs. I hope a lot. So that should be better. I'm sorry. I usually have this turned off and I forgot about it. I'm really bad at this thing, aren't I?
I thought it was me.
Oh, it's been hot weather. It does the brain in.
Oh, it does though, doesn't it? I'm totally knackered and full. My airco at home is having a hard time coping.
Your aircon.
Anyway, yeah, you don't even have an airco, mate. I'm sorry for you.
No, it's fine. It's greener that way.
Yeah, I'm pretty green. Even with an airco, I'm pretty green. I am, how do you call it? As close to CO2 neutral as possible.
Because you've got your solar.
Yes, I got me solar. Which is weird, to be honest, but never mind that. Anyway, we wanted to talk about freedom of speech, the UK, and what the fuck is going on around here.
Okay, so can I just give my answer, which I was going to give earlier?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Free speech, yes. The UK, fucked. Politics, it's gone down the toilet. Done. Goodbye.
But it is true, though, isn't it? I mean, we are being played like fools by politicians. And if we look at it, I know it's not nice to say about, yeah, but this person is right-wing and that person is right-wing and blah, 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 blah. But it's all bullshit. We are being played by left extremists, and everyone that isn't left extremist is right-wing.
According to them, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah, but they are the ones in control of mainstream media and all that, which is scary to me.
Yeah. But you see, the funny thing is it is turning around because all these resignations over what Theresa May is doing with Brexit is showing that people will take a lot of crap, but when they have had enough, they've had enough.
True that. But in a way, let's be honest. I'm not blaming UKIP because they've been put out of the game. But if I look at Boris Johnson, I'm sorry, mate, but he was very important in the whole Brexit movement. And then when they finally won, he basically said, okay, now it's time for me to step down. No, mate, now it's time to own up.
That's not fair. That's not fair. He got stabbed in the back the minute there was a leadership election by bloody Michael Gove.
Then I must have missed that.
Yeah, because what happened was as Cameron stood down, and then straight away Gove attacked Johnson, which did for Johnson's chances and Gove's chance.
Okay.
So the two main Brexiteers were out of the running for Tory leadership as soon as it was announced.
Okay. I must have missed that one. I mean, I know people are blaming Farage for stepping down, but I'm like, yeah, but the dude is UKIP.
It is a human nature, and I'll tell you why. Think about Iraq.
Yeah.
Think about Libya. Think about all the countries like Egypt with the Arab Spring. People always celebrate at the toppling, and the toppling is just the start, and everyone treats it as the end. And it's exactly the same phenomenon. The Brexit vote was the start, and everyone treated it as the end.
Okay. No, it's not the end, though. It's the beginning.
It's the start, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It is the start, but you look at no one votes for UKIP anymore because we've already got Brexit. Except we haven't got Brexit.
Yeah, we're starting with it.
And what's his face? Oh goodness, my brain doesn't work. Brexit man. Stood down from UKIP, and now he's going, oh, I warn you, I'm coming back. And the point is, but UKIP has a leader.
Yeah, now it's not Farage anymore.
Farage, that's the one. And it's all right him saying, "Oh, I'm going to come back," but that is so disrespectful to the new leader, because the new leader didn't choose the circumstances.
No. And Farage shouldn't have stepped down back then. I mean,
well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. He should have said, "Right, the effort has only just begun with this vote. Now I'm going to keep the pressure on the government."
Yeah.
But by stepping down, he told the population to move on to other things.
Yeah. And there is no moving on yet, because we're not done.
So of almost anybody, he's the biggest culprit.
I'm not sure if I would call him the biggest culprit, to be honest.
No, because he was the one who wanted Brexit, and him stepping down has had the worst impact.
Yeah, I understand what you say, but I'm not really sure if I agree with you on that one. Because where he has been the biggest part of mobilizing the people, politically, UKIP hasn't got anything to say.
Yeah, because they stopped saying things.
Sorry, guys, I thought we were going to talk about free speech in the UK.
Well, yeah, but that's basically what this is about.
Yeah, but we were. I was thinking about. Thought that we were talking about what Sadiq Khan said this week, or last week, about the Trump baby.
You're sounding really hollow and
yeah.
But yeah, we will come on to Khan as well.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay, I'll wait then. What's something hollow?
Yeah, something really wonky sound, mate. It's like you're sitting in an echo chamber.
Or you've got a dodgy connection on your microphone.
Yeah.
I'll turn off all my other internet connections and just have this up.
It was perfectly fine a moment ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Possibly because my wife's connected as well or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Better now?
Talk a bit more.
Better now?
Not really.
Not really, no.
No. I'll be right back. I'll come back.
Okay, we'll wait. But yeah, maybe you're correct. Maybe Farage should have kept pushing the whole thing.
Well, he
John.
was the driver. He was the driver, and him stepping down told everybody, "Oh, it's done," instead of, "No, now the hard work begins." Holding the politician to the fire, especially when, as we knew, the majority of MPs were against Brexit.
Yeah, I have to admit, I was somewhat optimistic on May. I mean, she was a Remainer, but she seemed to say the right things. She seemed to say, okay, yeah, no, okay, everyone the majority wants Brexit, so we will work towards Brexit.
Yeah. Well,
so I believe her on her word.
If you were a UK citizen, you'd have understood what a disaster she was as Home Secretary.
She was a disaster, and I mean, she then wanted new elections to consolidate her power, in which she lost basically her base.
Because she's a mental retard.
Yeah, she is a numpty. That is true. It's a shame though.
No, it's funny. Davey's saying we all thought she's execute the will of people. I never did, because I've never trusted them. You know.
Well, I'm with Saga on this one.
Utterly naive to think politicians will ever do anything other than what they want.
No, I understand what you mean, and unfortunately,
they
you're
will
proven right.
It's just like her statement to Boris's resignation. She issued a counter statement, and she said, "Oh, this is the best way of doing it. I am delivering on what people voted for."
Yeah, but
despite
she's a
the fact
numpty.
that both the majority of people who voted for Brexit, the majority of people who voted against Brexit, all think she's doing a terrible job and is reaching the worst of all possible outcomes.
Mm. No, I can't say for sure, but the way I look at it, it seems that Rees-Mogg might be a good way to go for the Conservatives. Though I do still think that we need, or rather, the UK needs, a strong UKIP to
Well,
be
I mean,
a backbencher,
the
so to speak.
UK needs new political parties because the ones we've got have
Yeah,
they're just corrupted.
yeah. I mean, if we look at Labour, that's man.
Well, Labour are now a bloody bourgeois corporatist party.
Yeah, but they're also communists. Can you imagine that?
That's because communism now is corporate bourgeois.
Yeah, that
Any
is
better
true.
now?
Yeah, that's better, mate.
Ah, good. Yeah, I agree with John. Labour is now a corporate communist mishmash of anti-Semitic things, bigoted and stuff.
Yeah, I mean their whole platform. If you laid out their platform and didn't say what race or what sex, you would think you were talking about the far right.
Yep, I agree.
It's weird though.
It is. Yeah, it's there's too much money. Like it sort of comes back to what I said last week.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, I don't want to. I already expanded last week that everything is interlinked to become the corporations and globalists are working to become a neo-feudal state of the earth or whatever, something like that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's what happens with elites. They will look after their interests, and eventually that will be to the detriment of everybody else. And the thing is that it's not in their own long-term interest. But the problem is if you've ever looked at game theory, people do not act in their own or the general best interest because of short-term issues. And it is a tired old scenario, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's well, in a way, it's painful, to be honest. To me, it's painful because we are being basically herded, goaded,
Manipulated,
manipulated. But we've
manipulated.
Manipulated. But we have seen this before, and this is the thing that scares me the most, because this is what happened turn of the century, 19th century, 20th century in Italy. This is how fascism came to be in Italy.
Yeah.
Because the Bolsheviks there were very much supported by the politicians and by the media, and the people on the street realized that they were being played. And we're in basically the same situation. We're being played by the media, we're played by some of the politicians, and people are waking up more and more and more. This is not a right-wing movement. This is a centrist movement.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But it's being labeled as
more and more people are realizing that we're being manipulated by the media, even in the left, even you can look into progressive circles, and even they are waking up to the idea that they're being manipulated.
Yeah.
They're starting to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's difficult for me to understand how blatantly they can do this, because, and now I'm going to go to Sadiq Khan. Sadiq Khan is complaining how people were negative about the whole Trump balloon thing, and he's basically like, yeah, but it's only a free speech thing. And in a fair way, I have to admit, he's correct.
Yeah,
the Trump balloon is a free speech
hypocrisy.
No, exactly.
But it's the hypocrisy indeed. I mean, on nothing is he in favor of free speech unless it's in favor of his point of view, which is so, communistic in a way. But then again, there's three cultures in the world that the world really needs to fear: Zulu culture, communism, and Islam, or Sharia culture. And this Zulu culture, yeah, definitely.
What's his Zulu culture?
The Bantu, the Zulu.
No, the Bantu are not Zulu. They're different.
Yeah, the Bantu are Zulu.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
No. ANC's full Bantu Zulu are different.
Not anymore, they're not. Not since
Sure
the
they are.
last, let's say, 100 years. If we look at the problem in South Africa, this is the Zulu culture.
So Zulu is involved with South Africa. What's a Zulu?
Zulu is it's
like an
Yeah.
ethnicity.
it's an ethnicity, yeah.
I
it's
stand
more than-
corrected. I stand corrected. Yep. It's Bantu speaking languages, but there's different ethnicities though.
Yeah, there are, and the Zulu is an ethnicity, so it's not even, but it's the Zulu culture that's the problem. It's not the ethnicity that is the problem, because there are Zulus out there in the world who aren't the problem, but the way the Zulu culture is, it's basically, how can I say this? If I have 1,000 people and you have 1,000 people, and I can kill you by sacrificing half of my men, then I win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where most generals will say, okay, I'll try to win without losing too many people. Zulu culture basically says, I don't care how much people I lose, as long as in the end I win. I will destroy my own country for me to win. And it's a cultural thing, and it's a little bit difficult to explain, but this is what's going on in Zimbabwe. This is what's going on in South Africa.
But it's not the actual Zulu that are causing the problem. It's the other Bantu nations.
I'm not saying it's the Zulus. I'm saying it's Zulu culture.
Well,
It's not just the ethnicity. It's the mindset of these people.
because the Zulu, the Inkatha party, which are basically the Zulu political party, they are very traditionalists.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they you could almost call them. It's I hate we're using this term right wing, but they're not. They're conservative.
Yeah.
Yeah. While the ANC, which is the other Bantu ethnic groups, a lot of them. There's not. I don't know which is the major one, because I am looking at the Zulu now, and they are the ones that have embraced the communistic ideals.
Yeah.
Socialist ideals. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are absolutely ruining the country.
Not just South Africa. They ruined Zimbabwe.
No, Zimbabwe as well, exactly, because it was as Mozambique was socialist. Now they're sort of toned it down a lot. Angola was socialist, and in the middle you have Botswana and the Congo, the Congo. That's the one.
Yeah. Which is
And
also,
Botswana was the only one that sort of stayed centrist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how good Botswana is doing now, by the way.
Oh, they're still doing good because they're still centrist, and they have the diamonds and so on. They're still, and they have a small population, so they're not too bad. And there's,
but I mean, if you look at others, if you look at other African cultures, for example, Senegal. I think Senegal was also Zulu, wasn't it? I have to look this up because now I'm doubting myself.
I don't know. They sort of I'm looking up Wikipedia because I'm too bored to look up, and they originated in a major clan in northern KwaZulu-Natal, founded in 1709 by Zulu Kemalendela. So
they have Zulu background as well. If we look at, for example,
not Zimbabwe. This is South African Zulu. Yeah,
I'm talking about Senegal. So they have Zulu background.
Well, they're Bantu. Yeah, they're Bantu. I think.
Bantu. The problem with Senegal, for example, is that the tribal structures are so strong there that if you, as a Senegalese, start your own business, people from your family will come to you and ask you for things, and you have to give it. If you do not, you are not a good member of the tribe. In event, this means that a lot of businesses go bankrupt. The only businesses in Senegal that do actually thrive are either governmental or owned by non-Senegalese, because Senegal people have no chance to survive because of the Zulu culture.
I can't find a Senegal having Zulu, mate.
Let me see.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. The ethnic groups, you have the Wolof, the Fula, the Serer, the Mandinka, the Jola, the Soninke, and the European Lebanese, others. So I can't see where and they're so far north, West Africa that the Zulu came
I'm going to
from.
say Senegal's an awfully long way.
Yeah, the Bantu came from more or less Central East and
Central Africa.
Central West Africa, where more or less the Congo is now, a little bit north even, but not too much north.
They went down too, though, didn't they?
Yeah, but from what is now the Congo and a little bit.
A heck of a lot of country to go through to go.
Yeah, and that's where the Angola, Mozambique, Congo, that's general area.
They're going to Europe now.
You've got all of West Africa, Senegal. You've got to go through Nigeria, Niger.
Well, it was a long distance, and there were a lot of tribes in between. You have
maybe I'm wrong in connecting them to the Zulu mentality as well.
A mentality is something that can always be linked internationally and across vast areas.
Well, it's a type of culture. I could swear that.
The problem is not ethnicity. The problems are culture.
Described exactly the same problem in Romania.
Yeah, well, it's sub-Saharan Africa anyway. So in Senegal is sort of west, a little bit above that area. So anyway. We digressed a little bit. Let's get back on terms of free speech because of.
Okay, because of the cultural things, as I said, three cultures: Zulu, Islam, and communism or socialism. These are pretty much authoritarian. They are pretty much destroying anything that does not agree with them. These cultures are very much against meritocracy. And if we look at basically what made the Western world big, it was meritocracy. I mean, I know people will say, oh, it was Christianity. No, Christianity absolutely had something to do with it. Fair enough, I can live with that. But it's not Christianity that made us great. It's meritocracy that made us great.
Things don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Yes, but in this case, if we look at Christianity, for example, if we look at Christianity as we know it in the Western world, our Christianity is so influenced by our Western cultures, our European cultures.
Exactly. It's not this, it's not that, it's the combination. That's what I was laughing about.
Well, it's mostly the cultures in the Western world.
Yeah, and you get a feedback loop. So you get the ancient Greek, the Roman, the Christian mixture. You then get the Germanic culture coming in, and they're
Celtic culture as well.
Yeah, all of them.
And they're all feeding into each other, and it's a loop. It's not this cause, it's the way that they interacted off of each other.
But people like to think that Christianity was the biggest marker of it, and I seriously don't think that's true.
I've seen this argument, and it's irrelevant.
How is it irrelevant?
Because I just watched a video by an American. He's going, "Oh yes, it was Christianity," and it's like, but the Christianity of the Roman Catholic Church was heavily influenced by the Greeks.
Yeah.
So how much is that Judeo-Christian, and how much is that Greek? It's,
actually,
to say it's mostly this or it's mostly that is to entirely miss the point, because it doesn't actually matter.
Well, in a way it does, though. There are more influences from the different cultures than from Christianity. And I'm not saying Christianity is a negative or a positive, because
no, but it's not separate. That's my point.
It's not separate. But the meritocracy came from Europe. Because if we look at Christian tribes in the Middle East, they are far less meritocracy based.
Did you know that there are the different flavors of Christianity? Some are more meritocratic than others. For example, the Protestant churches, they're all super. They have a really, really high work ethics and so on. While the Catholics and to some extent the Orthodox don't have that as the Catholics forget it. They're lazy cunts. And I should know. I was a former Catholic. But there are the Germanic and the British Anglo flavor, even the northern
Well, they used to call
Scandinavian
it
ones, the
they
flavors.
used to call it the Protestant work ethic, didn't they?
Exactly. Yes. So if Portugal was almost getting there was a point where they were almost going that way, but no, they just went back to Catholicism. But if we would have still had a really great, instead of building just churches. That's what Catholics do. They just build churches.
They put a lot of work and gold in
churches. Yeah, that's all that we did. While the Protestant, they made smaller churches and just work. Let's enrich the country. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, the Protestant Reformation actually stripped all the art and decoration out of churches.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So having grand churches was actually against their ethic.
Mm-hmm. Well, they went a little bit further than that, though. I mean, you're not allowed to have depiction of anything because the Bible says you weren't allowed.
Yeah, well, it depends on the one. Lutheranism, that's the word. Lutheran churches are not as strict as Calvinist churches. Calvinists are the most barest of thing, I think. Yeah, they are. The Calvinists. So, yeah, there are some degrees. While the Church of England is a Protestant church, but it's just...
Well, actually, technically, it's Catholic.
Exactly. It's just an independent Catholic church. Exactly.
But coming back to the development of the Western world, I mean, we are meritocratic if we like it or not. If we look at Europe, if we look at
but the thing
countries that even adopted our how do you call it? Our ethics. The countries that adopted our ethics are also meritocratically based. I mean, if you look at Japan, if you look at India, they're not close to us, but they have adopted a more of a meritocratic system.
China had meritocracy. You've always had the Chinese Empire,
Yeah.
not the communist one. The before that, yeah.
Yeah. But they were successful for their day and age.
Yes, and they're reacquiring that meritocracy that they lost during the communist Mao period. And you can see that.
In all fairness, I doubt that they are going to reacquire that because they are still pre-communistic, even though they are using capitalism to gain international foothold.
Absolutely.
They are still, they're still very totalitarian.
But that's always been China China, Russia, and certain other places. The culture itself is inherently they need an authoritarian government over them. We sort of lost that in the 15th, 14th century.
Yeah.
During not the Reformation, during the Enlightenment, and to some extent the Reformation.
Well, that was later.
A little bit, yeah, between that whole period, yeah, exactly.
No. The Reformation was an 18th century thing. Sorry, the Enlightenment was an 18th century thing.
I absolutely. I'm not saying that they were exactly the same time. I mean, from the Reformation to the Enlightenment, that period, it was 300 years that we lost the notion of being ruled authoritarianistically. The many kingdoms became more liberalized, etc. There were exceptions, like ours was an authoritarian. The French one was authoritarian, and a few others. And they're the ones that sort of became backwards, while the British monarchy, the British monarchy, the German, which came from the Germanic family. And then later on in the 18th century, from the House of Denmark, Queen Elizabeth's grandfather, etc., the Queen Victoria's grandfather.
Your centuries are a bit far out.
The
Germanic
was King George the First.
No.
Or King. King
Well,
George
we had the
III.
Dutch with William of Orange.
That was before, yeah.
William
then
of
we
Orange.
And
No,
then
it was,
we
yeah.
had the Germans, and that was, I believe, 1707.
1706, the 18th century. Georges, yeah, the Georges, yeah.
18th century, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And
then
they've been Germanic ever since.
ever since, exactly, with
In
the
all
mixing of
fairness,
with the mixing of the House of Denmark. Yeah, I know a little bit, not as
if we
good as
look
you,
at
but
nearly all European countries, nearly all, they're Germanic.
I have a high percentage of Germanic genes in me. So yes, not
Yeah,
as much
obviously.
as Roman and Celtic, but it's enough.
I mean, for example, Italy. Italy was Longobardan. After the
Yeah.
Romans got trenched, it basically got controlled by the Longobards. The Longobards were Germanic. That
The
doesn't mean
Visigoths.
that's later. Yeah, it doesn't mean that the original people were extinguished, because no, that didn't happen. But the control of the country became Germanic. The same is true for France. It doesn't mean that the Gaelic people suddenly disappeared, but the control of the country became good Germanic.
Exactly, yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, we digress.
A little bit, yeah.
Back
Let's
to
get back
free
on track.
speech.
Back to free speech, yeah.
Because we were talking about how the UK is basically losing its free speech. We were talking about the Brexit and how UKIP is now trying to re-establish itself.
And it's growing. Grew 3% in 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah, but I think that's mostly,
UKIP?
yeah, UKIP. But I think that's mostly to do with
nothing.
Yeah, it's easy to go from nothing. And I mean, they've been having an influx because of people like Sargon and what's his name, John Watson.
No.
That's not a bad thing in itself.
No, it's not a bad thing, but it explains why they are growing.
Not just that, the publicity brought on by the likes of the YouTubers has encouraged people that are disappointed by the two main parties.
There is no alternative. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Wherever you look in the political spectrum in Britain, you've got two parties who are so similar to each other on so many issues.
Yeah,
exactly. And then you have the far right, which no one wants to go there.
No. But I'm talking about actually electoral
parties. Yeah, but the Lib Dems. They're the same basically. You have three parties which are absolute. Don't you? Yeah, I think you do. Yeah, you do.
Well, the Lib Dems are. Unfortunately, in many respects, they've taken the worst of both the ones to either side.
Exactly. Yes, that was where I was going to characterize them. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, I'm hoping, but this might be hoping against better knowing. I don't know, but I'm hoping that UKIP is becoming a people's issue party. So no longer how do you call it, a one issue party, because it has been that for a while.
Yes.
But more of a, okay, this is what the people want. And for example, not too long ago with the Article 13, the European Article 13, UKIP was more than willing to work together with the Green parties, even though on most things they disagree. But on this thing, they work together, because on this thing, we agree.
Yeah. Yes.
And I really think that we need more political parties like that don't follow a party guideline or a predetermined set of things, but no, this is what our base wants, so this is what we're going to do, and we're going to work with whomever we need to work with to achieve this goal. So if for example, if talking about free speech, if we want to protect free speech, if Labour accidentally agrees with us on this, then we're going to work with Labour to get this thing through, because we want this thing. We don't care about Labour, we care about this issue. And they need to do that on every single issue time and time again. We need more political parties like that. And for example, in the Netherlands, we have Forum for Democratie, which is a political party that basically said, on everything we vote in Parliament, we will send out a message to all, because they know days ahead that they're going to have to vote about something. We're going to put a message out to all of our members, and they will tell us what they want us to vote. And that's what we will do.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they're making of every issue a small referendum. Now, they're not that big, but the mainstream political parties are already quite, how do you call this? Threatened by them. So they've labeled them as extreme right, obviously, because how dare you ask people what they want? You must be a right wing.
Yeah, it's a form of censorship. It's you don't want especially the left. Well, not especially the left. You don't like the conversation that how's it going? No, you're extreme right wing. You're right wing. You're extreme right. You're alt right. You're a Nazi.
Yeah, they love doing that. They love painting like it's like, oh, you're an extremist group. You're scary. You know, you're scary to get people to be really scared of voting for you because nobody wants to be an extremist. It's sort of like slanderism in a way.
Yeah, it is. How can I demonize you, and by doing so, try to get people to ignore you? And that's what they're doing.
It's what Salazar, our dictator, did. But he was right. He was a fascist, basically. He did that to the center. He didn't care about the communists because they were easily controllable. He did that to the main huge center.
Yeah,
that's where.
But that's the thing, though. Ideologues are controllable because as long as I make you feel that I'm following your line, there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
But it's the centrist. It's the mainstay of the people in the middle who don't always know what's going on, but they will vote because they've always voted them. People are loyal, and they're exploiting that loyalty.
It's not just loyalty, though. The problem is you have inertia. If you want a new party, people not only have to want to vote for the party, they have to believe enough that the party will do well enough that they're not going to, their vote is not going to stop, it's not going to help somebody they really dislike getting in.
Mm-hmm.
So in Britain, you get a lot of tactical voting because you can have a 3-way, 4-way split, and 3 parts can be much more than the 4th, but the 4th is the biggest individual bit.
Yeah.
And so in order to get elected, you have that problem of people looking at a party say, well, yeah, but it'd just be a waste of vote. And it becomes self-perpetuating because no one votes for it because people say it'll be wasted, and then they don't vote, and so everyone else says, oh, yeah, it would have been wasted. Without PR, no one would really know.
Well, that's the reason why I think that the alternative votes would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, I like what Nick's saying. To control ideologues, all you have to do is stroke their ego by assuring that they are that their enemies will have it worse, and they are the worst, and oh, you're so great, and you're so great, and it's kind of like Obama during his how do you call it, his end of the first term, when he was basically caught saying to the Russians, no, I can't do anything now, but give me a few weeks because after the election I'm free. My hands won't be tied. And that's how you deal with ideologues. You don't give them anything. You basically keep pulling them along. And hi there, Square Peg. I did send you an invite. I hope you are able to join, but if not, that's okay.
I'll be going soon anyway as well.
Oh, why?
You know, I only slept 4 hours last night, and I got to work tomorrow.
Yeah, me too. and it's sweltering here. I don't know how it's in
It's
Portugal.
quite cool. It's 14 degrees outside.
Oh, I wish we had that here.
No, I wish I had what you have here. I love the
Oh,
You should
summer
swap.
heat.
Should swap.
I'm dying because
House
of the
exchange.
Exactly. Temperature
Yeah.
exchange.
temperature.
Anyway, guys, I'm going to go. Love this. This going well. It's in good hands, and I love you all, even in the chat, and the people in the chat as well, not just but I love the people here we're talking a bit more. So don't be jealous, everyone. Anyway, guys, see you tomorrow. See you next time. Till then, I might do a stream. I might do a stream on Friday. I think I have something interesting.
I might try to join you. Typey wise, I always look at your streams later. To be honest.
Yeah, I gotta apologize for last Mondays. I just could not start early. I tried as much as I can, but I had to physically leave the house, help a neighbor out, do some stuff.
No, to me, you're too early. I mean, I have to work till 11.
Yeah, I know. Man, I try to balance as much as I can.
Don't do everything based on me.
Yeah.
No, Alicia, you didn't miss anything. We're just going. But Carlos is leaving. You're still welcome to join us. If you
Exactly. Good night, all. Bye bye.
Good night, Carlos.
Bye, Carlos.
How's this, Modwain? We start an hour earlier with one set of people, and over time, people come in and others drop out.
I can't start an hour earlier, mate. I work till 11.
I said other people start the stream, and then those who come later can come later.
No, I don't mind that bit, but I can't start earlier.
Yeah, you can give instructions to your good lady wife. And...
Well, I'll think about it.
I'm just saying that if people find it a problem to be late, and then you've got the North Americans for whom it's sort of like in the middle of the day, it might be a way around it.
Maybe.
I don't mind doing that.
Well, that's something to think about then. Fair enough. But yeah, Alicia, you're welcome to join. Squarepeg, you're welcome to join, but I understand if you don't. Making pickles. Why are you making pickles? And indeed, as John the Muse just said, we were admiring your voice earlier because John is enthralled. Can I say enthralled?
I like it.
Yeah.
But she's only number 2.
She's only number 2. I did not say that.
Because I was saying how I'd managed to get her icon out to Peach Bailey earlier. Peach is my number 1.
And Alicia has baby duty, so the two of them won't join us. But yeah, no. Back to the free speech thing, because Sadiq Khan, in all of his wisdom, basically felt that obviously he can't deny people to make fun of a befriended political leader, even though nobody cared enough to make fun of what's his face from Saudi Arabia or Erdogan, because they are such great leaders. I mean, yeah, they're nice, but no. America is the one you need to piss off. It's kind of funny because, as Voltaire said, if you want to know who rules over you, find out who you're not allowed to criticize or make jokes over.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to say anything negative about Islam. We're not allowed to say anything negative about Saudi Arabia or Erdogan. Well, we are, but we're being tried to keep quiet. I saw a nice image today that basically said, if everyone in the world seems to think that Donald Trump is that big of a problem and he's such of a dictator, etc., how come so many people are openly talking negatively about him? I mean, there's no dictator in the world where you could do that.
Yeah, but it was like the women's protest, because that's the one where Sargon was doing that interview I photobombed. And they had all these speeches, and it was like the very things they're saying they wouldn't be able to say if what they were saying was true.
Yeah. I'm going to share this one because this is the image I meant. Donald Trump is such a terrifying fascist dictator that literally no one fears speaking out against him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that kind of basically undermines everything they're saying, because if he is indeed such a terrifying fascist dictator, I mean, we can look at China or we can look at many other countries. Many other countries. Sorry, I couldn't. But yeah, I'm sorry. If you criticize the wrong people, you just disappear. But that doesn't happen here.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I was going to say that their points are just refuted by their ability to make them.
Yeah, it's amazing. As Jesse Lee Peterson always says, amazing. I have to practice that. Anyway.
Well, there are dialogues.
Sorry?
They are ideologues. You know, they believe it like religiously.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the problem, though. They are ideologues. There is no proving them wrong. I'm not saying they are wrong, but there's no way to prove that they are, because they will simply ignore all arguments they don't like.
Yeah, but that goes to the heart of this Sadiq Khan free speech issue.
Yeah,
because to the ideological mind, it is obvious the rest of us can't understand it, that only some speech should be allowed, and it just happens to be exactly what they want to say and not what anyone else wants to say.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing, because in the periods before of Trump's arrival and the bullshit about the baby Trump balloon, which to me wasn't so much offensive as it was stupid.
Oh, it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, you've got a balloon. Had they actually had a blimp, then maybe. I mean, if we look at America, they have those Macy Day parade balloons. Yeah. If they had something that size, then I was like, okay, yeah, okay, maybe we need to take you serious. This wasn't even.
Oh no! You're missing the point. The bigger it was, the funnier it would have been, because the more effort they would have had to have put into doing it, and
then they at least would have put effort in it. I can respect effort, but this was just a joke.
Talking about, they had to fund it, they had to design it, they had to get it built. That's effort.
But they got £30,000.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they could have made something bigger with that money.
Well, as I say, the bigger it would have been, the funnier it would have been, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yes, it would still be funny, but yeah, I don't know. But the fact that he brings up that, oh no, I have to be in favor of free speech. I have to be in favor of free speech. Yeah, but free speech, I have to be in favor of it. Okay, then please explain to me the "Are you Beachbody ready" debacle.
Well, that's easy. No one on the left can say no to any insane outrage exhibited by feminists. And feminist outrage is just it has no bearing with reality.
Yeah.
Who? Oh yeah, that was it. The honey badgers. Last night. So Brian Martinez is saying he's got a new game, which is to put into a search engine anything is feminist, and just try to find something that they haven't claimed is feminist, and is a problem to feminism, and nothing, including feminism itself, escapes it.
Yeah. But that's the issue, though. I mean, how can these people claim that they are for free speech whilst at the same time basically telling people, yeah, but you're not allowed to say that.
Are you using reason and logic there?
Yeah, that's my fault. I can't help it. I'm sorry.
But to an ideologue, there's no such thing as reason and logic. There's only
No, I've noticed that many a time. It's kind of funny because Sargon, I think it's his video for today or a few days ago, I can't remember. But he's talking about how he's no longer taking prisoners. He's no longer bothered with talking about people from the other side. Iconoclast did a video about that too, because it's basically useless. There is no talking to them.
Well, here's the problem, and this is what I was saying to you the other day, is about ideology. You can be left wing and not an ideologue, and you can talk to those people. You can be a feminist and not an ideologue, and you can talk to those people. But someone who's an ideologue, there's no talking to them because everything they believe is underpinned by unproven, unfalsifiable dogma.
Yeah, and the thing is, I listen to you guys, and I really have to think, even about my school when it started, it wasn't as bad as it is now, and I don't know how bad it is by now in Poland, but I remember that we actually were being taught that freedom of speech and expression is important, but at the very same time, we were taught not to insult people, being very respectful, that you can't insult, that basically, in a way, your freedom of speech is ending if you're starting to insult someone. And I haven't seen it that, I didn't realize it as much back then, but it's also the thing that they pushed already with my generation, that you deserve respect. Everyone now is talking in Poland. For example, even if you're uninformed and you still want to vote, or you don't go vote because you don't give a damn and you're uninformed, you also have to we also have to respect that choice, to the point that when someone pointed that out to me, my first response was like, well, yeah. And then I went for a shopping and I was like, fuck no. In the old days, my parents would respect people if they were, hardworking or informed or for something, right? You were polite and nice to people, but you respect them if they're actually deserved respect. So I'm like, fuck no, we don't have to respect that. I don't have to respect your choice of being stupid and uninformed just as much as I respect someone's choice, to be informed and to read upon stuff. And I don't have to respect your choice at all. I'm not forcing you to change it because you live, I don't have a right to force you, and that's right. But we're being fed this thing that everyone deserves respect and you cannot insult people. And I think this is also the part of it, that they just, as soon as they are insulted, they cannot stand it. There is no arguing. This is the whole raising of my generation already.
It's not just that, though.
No, but it's part of it, I think.
No, I know. I'm saying, but in addition, it's not just that as soon as they feel insulted, they start reeing. The other problem is that they show no compunction against insulting others.
No, because they, the fucking righteous one. That's also the problem, that I part of what I see when I look online for those things, of the way those people argue and the way they behave. It's not all of it, because I think the problem is really way more complicated. But the part of it is also basically raising little fucking princess and little queens and kings. You are perfect just the way you are. You're right. You deserve respect. You're special. You're super intelligent. No, fuck no, you're not. And those people just think that they right no matter what. And above that, you also have an education when it doesn't really tell you the history, right? When it tells you the history, I now see more and more like, it wasn't at my school often. It wasn't told. Even when certain things weren't told different than they really were, they were told in such a way that most people will end up thinking certain thing after being taught that. We are not being taught to think for themselves. So to me, this is also a big part of the problem, because those people just they're really disabled people mentally.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And
And
it's part and parcel of the same hypocrisy over free speech.
Yeah. It's free speech as long as you say,
as you agree with that,
as you agree with me, because and people really cannot, and I try to explain that to people if I come in my life, if I meet those people, I try to explain them, but most people think that you have a right to free speech, but you cannot insult people. And they really, I remember even thinking and asking that at school once, like also asking that my mother, like, okay, but how I know something is insulting? Because in a way, in a childish way, I said that everything can be insulting to people. I only said it different because I really couldn't understand that.
That's true. That's not childish. That's exactly right.
No. I said it in a really childish language because but in a way, I asked actually that because I really couldn't understand it. And of course, at school, they often, when you get actually a good question, you know you get a good question because it actually made you feel like you're an idiot.
No, people who are ideological use the argument that you're not allowed to be rude, you have to be respectful, as a political weapon.
Yeah.
A political weapon they have no intention of ever abiding by, and they have no intention of abiding by the same standard themselves.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Mike.
You know, Sadiq Khan, I mean, what hypocrite. His speech. Oh, how can you censor political opinions? That's what his bloody special police unit does.
He does.
But that's what he's been doing for... How long has he been in power now?
A couple of years.
Yeah, and that's basically what he's been doing. I mean, he is leading the charge in trying to arrest people for wrong thing online.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, how can you say I'm in favor of free speech, but hey, don't say anything negative about this religion or that person because, No,
he can say it because he's a politician and lying comes naturally.
Yeah, that's unfortunately quite true. Oh, 1 second. Yeah, go on.
The thing is, though, I really still try to think why people don't they see it, or don't they care anymore, or I don't know, because it's like basically how much more people have to take to actually act upon that. This is what I don't understand.
No, the problem, Sandy, is you can't see people as a monolith. There are lots of constituencies, and they all are behaving differently for different reasons. So you've got a political class who are influenced by the education they've received, for whom this is exactly what Sadiq Khan should do. And then you've got a lot of people who are too busy living their lives and don't think it's affecting them. And it sounds reasonable. And they're not going to be paying any attention because they can't afford to.
Yeah.
And so there isn't one mass of people doing one thing. There's bunches of people doing different things.
Yeah, that's true. The thing is, though, our life did become really faster. I'm not saying harder, because that's bullshit, but faster. But people, the problem is that we just, we've had too good, because, like, if I look even in Poland, generation of my grandparents, they had to fight in the war, right? Then generation of my parents, they were brought up and left long part of their lives during the communism. So they had to fight it. Well, some of them went along with it, of course, but a lot of people didn't. The times were really hard, and they know still the times when they couldn't say what they wanted to say. They still know the times when people were disappearing from the street and you wouldn't hear from them, like you couldn't criticize. To us, especially to the people, I think, who didn't live in a countries that have it, right? People in here, for example, it's unthinkable. It's unthinkable. The stories I told them, some of the people here from my country, they're like, yeah, I do believe you, and at the same time, I can't believe it. It's unthinkable. And I think that's also the problem, that people don't see what all those things that we think are small and insignificant, that they actually are significant, and that they are a step towards one bigger thing, and what it leads us, really. Because the fact, and I was even that thing with Alfie, with that boy, Alfie Evans, I couldn't believe that people weren't outraged, that people didn't speak out about it, that people didn't go on the street, that people didn't share anything on Facebook.
No. There's two issues, right? There's the question of how much do you feel you can do, and there's also an understanding of how much other people. So one of the ways people are kept quiet is by giving them the feeling that it's only them, and that's what control of the media and social media does.
Yeah.
And one of the problems you've got on social media is you have small groups of very, very motivated, very, very angry people who scare off all but the strong-minded from saying something that those people disagree with.
Maybe.
And the irony is people like our Labour MP, Jess Phillips, will happily play the victim on this, knowing full well that it's people on her side who do it to other people, and that's why she knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
It's
Mike.
Sorry, I have to swap mics from time to time. But yeah, it's amazing that this shit still happens, and it seems that people are blind to it. Are they willingly blind to it?
It's not that they're blind to it. It's that they complain down the pub, they complain to their mates, but not that many people go on the streets and protest. And the ones who are tend to be, in the main, the leftists.
Well, but I mean, why don't we see this when election time comes? Because then we still see a lot of people voting for Corbyn and his Corbynistas.
Yeah, because the electoral system was designed to be utterly resilient to a change.
But if people stop voting for the Corbynistas,
then who are they going to vote for? This is what we're talking about. Not only is there no viable alternative, there's no way to get a viable alternative because the barrier is so high. It's not like America where somebody can just stand and become president. We have no direct vote for the leader. To be the leader, you've got to be chosen by a majority of the people already elected for the party.
No, I understand that. But if we look at, I mean, the English system is pretty silly. I admit, I'll totally...
It's not silly if you know why it was designed the way it was. It was designed to not be changed.
Yeah. But it's still, even though they designed the system like this, if all of the people stop voting for Labour, they will win nothing.
Yes, that's true. But the problem is people have many different issues. And if you come to have a vote, you've got one vote for absolutely everything for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Half your motivation for your vote isn't for the party you want, it's against the party you don't want.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, that's how Trump won because of Hillary.
Yeah, but at least in his case, it's a very simple election. Whereas in Britain, it's not a simple election because I get to vote for my MP. So I've got to consider the local circumstances of who's likely to win, who's not likely to win. Will my vote let someone damage the chances of the lesser of two evils? Is my MP a good MP, even though I don't generally support the party? And then you've got the party as a whole. There's so much rolled into one vote.
It's weird though.
Yeah, because it was designed this way. This is what I keep telling you. It was designed.
Yeah, I wonder why it can't change though.
How? How do you change it? Because the people who are the only people in a position to change it are the people who are benefiting it from it as it is.
Yeah, that's.
When Labour in opposition, they were in opposition for 18 years, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we like the sound of proportional representation." Of course, they did because they were kept out of power. Then the minute Blair gets in, he gets a landslide. Suddenly, they're not interested.
Well,
because by definition, to be in the position to change it, they have to have been able to win under the current system and therefore don't have an incentive to change. I told you, it was brilliantly designed to be resilient.
It's weird though. I mean, we keep talking about democracies, and now I'm not saying that the Netherlands is doing such a great job, but in all fairness, it seems that we're the least terrible out of Europe. No, but we are though. I mean,
I'm not laughing at you in dispute. I'm laughing at you in recognition.
Yeah, but
with you, I'm laughing at yes.
The thing is that even in our system, if a handful of parties decide to ignore a few other parties and they can create a majority like that. I mean, for example, in the last elections, 2017, the Party for Freedom of Geert Wilders became the second biggest party in this country.
Uh-huh.
But obviously, the political left-wing parties in the Netherlands don't want to work with the PVV, even though the PVV is pretty much left-wing as well. They're just also anti-Islam. No, they're right-wing. Oh, they're terrible, blah, 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 blah. So basically, they colluded with each other to make a new government and basically leave the PVV hanging out, which, in all fairness, will cause more people to vote for the PVV next time around because idiots.
Yeah.
The thing is, the illusion of a vote, because that's what democracy is, the illusion of a vote.
Yeah.
In the end, it might not be enough. And hi there, ludicrous, hi there, ism. I'm not used to seeing you there, ism. Welcome. But the worst part is, when people start recognizing that the illusion of democracy is a farce, I fear what will happen next. And I know I often say I fear stuff like this, but I actually do. It is scary because we see where it's going, because we've seen where it's going, because it has happened before. But it happened faster last time than it happens now, because last time people still had a way to defend themselves in Europe. Now, no one in Europe is armed.
And this is where tinfoil definitely comes in handy for headgear. In the 20s and 30s, things were bad, and there was political severe unrest, especially in Germany, as a result. Today, we're living in the best most peaceful, most prosperous, most tolerant societies, and yet there's still people trying to stir up hysteria that we are living in such terrible times, when the absolute opposite is the case. And that's what's so frightening at the moment, is the fact that they're stirring up so much feeling on nothing.
Yeah, the thing is that I even hear lately, I've heard a few times, you know, that it's not even that the times are as bad as they were for our grandparents, for example. I even hear lately that people saying, you know, that the times you're living in even became more difficult. They actually saying that life became really hard, and I'm like, really? We had 2 world wars. We had freaking communism that killed a lot of people in the past century. We've never had really so much. We've never had so much luxury and peace in Western culture.
We have equality, we have tolerance.
And you're telling me that life became harder. It's like, from the argument of, well, your husband doesn't have to go fight, go fight off war, to the even argument, I wouldn't like to step in my grandmother or my mother kitchen even, because we have, not only peace, but we also have a luxury at the moment. And people think we actually have a harder times. And partly we've been actually told that because life became faster. That's true. And partly it became faster a lot because of so many platforms, so many social medias, people checking, Facebook all the time, then 10 other platforms. We even have, I'm sure it's not only in the Netherlands, but they basically, they made the program how now teenagers are trying to keep up, because basically to have a social life nowadays, it's like you have to be on Facebook, you have to be on Instagram, you have to be on the other social platforms. I don't even remember their names. Otherwise, you are excluded. And maybe that's partly why people think the life is harder, because we don't have rest anymore. But at the same time, to say that life became harder is like, there is not any other time, there is not a time in a previous century that I would rather be alive. That's the truth.
Yeah, and it's not just it's not close. It's such a huge difference.
Yeah, go fucking fight the war, or go protest against your.
It's because people are not taught anything to give them a sense of perspective.
That's true. And also this is why I watched this program, and I was watching a lot of lately of welfare in Britain, and documentaries also posted, made like 2013, 14, 15. But I also listen to people, what they say and their mentality. And it's really, for example, I remember a boy, 19 years old, who moved out of the house, was on welfare, didn't work because he wanted to, have a career as a, I don't know, DJ rapper, I can't remember. So basically, because he was on welfare, he got a house in a really poor area, of, I can't remember the city. So there was really not nice people there. You don't want to live there if you don't have to. Then he got maybe slightly better, and eventually he was having really nicer apartment in a nicer place. And when they took it as an exercise, they put him back in the house of his mother. That was for the show purposes. And I never forget what he said. He said that he doesn't deserve to lose his. It was only for a week, It wasn't forever. It was only for a week for the purposes of the program. He said he doesn't deserve it, and the people who did it to him don't understand the struggle and what he's been through to get where he was. And I'm like, all that happened to you, that's from the taxpayers' money, because you're too fucking lazy to work, because there is nothing wrong physically or mentally with you besides that you are an idiot. All that you've gone through was that you got stuff for free, in this case house, you know, which you didn't like. That's the struggle of your life. You got something for free which you don't deserve because you didn't fight the war. It's not like you lost your legs to fight for freedom. You didn't get, you know, cancer and become off work after working in a mines or something. You just want a career as a DJ or rapper or whatever. Therefore, you don't want to have everyday job. You got for free something you didn't like, and that's your struggle. And he really truly believed that he's been through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is the young generation nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And they completely fine with the fact that, you know, people like you and me will go to work, pay the taxes, and basically pay for them bitching and moaning that the things they get are not good enough. And I think it's very difficult to reverse it also in the country when you import people, which are migrants, import Muslims, and you know more than half of them they just don't work and they get welfare as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult to tell young people different and tell them principles when they actually see, you know, that there is a group in your country that is not even born in your country and is treated with, you know, with all this without a problem. So but it gets me a little bit to state of the mind when people nowadays think that they actually been through a lot. It's not that boy, it's not just, you know, the one example, because I've actually watched a lot of those programs, not even for the commentator stuff, but just for the people themselves that sit on welfare, what they are saying. And it really was truly amazing. And don't get me wrong, there are also people who are absolutely screwed by the system in Britain, because they were working hard and they cannot afford the place to live anymore because it's gone with the prices so much, and they wanted to ship them off to the, you know, cheaper areas of England. But the problem is that cheaper areas are cheaper because no one wants to live there. Why? Because there is no work. So they're like, okay, I can be there, but probability that I will find a work there is, you know, nearly zero. So I understand those people. Then of course you have Muslims who don't work. Not all the Muslims I know don't get freaked out people, but you have this problem that you have, you know, Muslims that don't work at all. So if you want to move them to the cheaper areas, that's okay because they don't lose any work, right? They don't work to begin with. And they have a major issue with them. But it's basically the idea how easy people have nowadays and how hard they think they are having. When, for example, my parents were both working, and due to communism and the emptiness in the shops, and not being able to buy things because that's what communism, socialism do to you, we just had to struggle and count our food. Or, you know, my mother would really have to be very creative how to buy shoes for me, not because she didn't have any money, she didn't have a chance to be short on cash because she couldn't spend the cash. So she still had the problem, like, I needed the shoes and there were no shoes, you know. So it's really, really funny and scary as well. And there is a silence.
Yeah.
Mike, Joey.
No, but there is something going on, though. I mean, we are.
I think part of it is that people are spoiled. I mean, parents, they never ever want their kids to have it as hard as they have it, but sometimes the struggle builds character. So their children have it way too easy. They never experience struggle. They've been spoiled, and they become a very entitled. Like, it's kind of a lot like, I deserve your taxpayers' money. Like, I deserve to have a nice iPhone for free. Like, I deserve a nice house for free because their parents spoiled them. And their parents spoiled them because they feel that it's unfair that their life is so hard. And they don't want their kids to suffer the way they
in a way, we have it too good. And that's why the political parties get away with what they're doing. Now, it might sound weird what I'm saying, but
no, I've already I've long understood that one.
Sorry?
I've long understood that.
Yeah. But if for example,
I agree. Like, I also think that we have it too good. Like, I think the fact that we have it too good is the problem.
Yeah.
Well, it is part of the problem because people will not act out or will not stand up until we don't have it good anymore. Look at Venezuela. Venezuela was one of the richest countries in the world 20 years ago. And slowly it's been moving more and more towards socialism. And by the time people finally figured out what the fuck was going on, they were too late. They couldn't stop it anymore. And now it's a hellhole. And I think this is part of the problem when it comes to, how do I say this? When it comes to what happens in Europe and in America and in the Western world in general. I mean, we really need to stand up against this push for socialism. Because once it's very clear that this is a problem, we're too late.
Yeah, but you see, you know my views, because I think socialism is a byproduct of capitalism, and therefore, as long as you have the current capitalist system, you will always generate socialists.
I think I know what you mean. I think what you mean is people get like really jealous. Like people people look up and they're like, that should be me with a nice car. That should be me with a nice television. That should be me. And because people get jealous, it's like, no, I want what you've got.
You need wealth for people to then want to have it. If you live in a poor society, the poor just, it never occurs to them that they should have the wealth of the Lord of the Manor. But when you have a generally wealthy society, they say, oh, well, it's not equally distributed, therefore we should change the system. But if it wasn't generating that wealth in the first place, it would never occur to them.
But I'm not really sure if it's that or because of the way that certain ideologies are being pushed.
No. You're missing the point. The ideology came after the capitalism.
Yeah, I agree. I have to agree with Sean here because it's like people get jealous. Jealous is a natural human emotion. And when you see somebody with really nice clothes and really nice shoes and like a really nice car, like it's natural to be jealous and it's natural to want it for yourself and go, like, it's unfair. Like, it's so unfair.
There's a difference between being jealous and claiming it's unfair. If I see something with someone, if I see someone with something that I want, I might think I want that. But I will not think it's unfair that they have it.
No, but here's the thing.
I might be envious.
No, but here's the thing, Mod. It seems a law of nature that in any hierarchy, a few people will do exceptionally well and a lot of people will do badly. We live in such a society, it produces a mass of wealth, but then you will always have a mass of people at the bottom with relatively little, and they are your fuel for socialism, and they won't go away.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm middle class now. With my job, I'm middle class.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take a lot to be middle class, to be honest. I'm bottom middle class, but fair enough. But if I look at my upbringing, if I look at where I come from, I don't come from the middle class.
Yeah.
And I'm not where I want to be either, because, of course, I can always use more.
I'm talking about disparities, not about absolutes.
Yeah, but it's an attitude thing, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. But my point is that the attitude that some people are doing so much exceptionally better than a lot of people who aren't doing that well is built into the system. It won't go away. And as long as that is there, it creates a pressure where people will look at it and say, oh, We know everyone's been looking at this for 150 years, but we think we know how to suddenly solve it all with this wonderful idealistic system. And it's no surprise that it's not in general the people who are suffering who are leading this, but the relatively privileged, educated, but unworldly in academia or the media or politics or...
But doesn't that mean that we are failing in raising our children?
No, because it's a part of the system. It's an inherent reaction to what's going on.
No, I wanted to say something, because you just said that ideology came after capitalism, and I'm sorry, I'm tired. I'm not sure now if I understood you right and I'm addressing it right. But the thing is that this ideology to me never died. It's just that, you know, when the capitalism came, well, you sort of were, you know, if you still were pushing for Marxism, for socialism, you were done in the Western world. You couldn't really.
Sorry, capitalism came a long time before Marxism.
Yeah, but I'm talking about.
No. But this is the point, because people look at socialism, and I'm saying it developed in the first place. It was conceived of only because of the success of capitalism.
Yeah, it's not 100% true, though, because if we go back in time, if we look at, for example, during the Roman age, 300, 400 after Christ, we noticed that the Roman Empire was already what we could now call socialism, trying to placate the masses.
They have the same pressures.
Sorry?
You do understand they have the same pressures.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It might not have had the same name, but it's basically the same. It's basically the same idea.
No. But here's the thing, right? They needed social programs because slavery disenfranchised the labourers, the land people on the land. It was primarily agrarian society, and large estates run using slave labour made it uneconomical to be an independent farmer, and therefore the state, in order to prevent unrest, had to provide a lot of welfare. Yeah. Because there was no demand for labour, thanks to slavery. Okay. But they didn't have the amount of wealth that capitalism or industrialisation was able to produce. And so you don't get the evolution of the socialist concept because there wasn't the wealth to drive it. You can only have a conception that, oh, there's all this wealth, and if we have all this wealth and we redistribute it, we can do this, that, and the other, if the wealth is there. And that's why it needs a wealth-producing system in order to conceive of what we see in Marxism and socialism.
Yeah, so you basically need a system that is able to produce for everyone without...
Yeah, or just a lot.
Yeah, no, you have to produce... But then we come back to what science fiction basically says, the Star Trek analogy. Star Trek is based on sociology, not sociology, socialism. But it's only based on socialism because no one really has to do anything because everything is provided for.
Yeah, I'm not going to take my political doctrines from fiction.
No, but that's the thing, though. I mean, yes, of course, socialism can work, but these are the circumstances they need.
No one's talking about socialism working. Who's talking about socialism working?
Well, socialists.
Yeah, but my point is this. What drives socialists is a combination of the conditions and a lack of understanding on their part, because they are generally privileged people who've never had to work and don't know what it's like and are ignorant of how the world works.
Mm.
And what I'm saying is, as long as you have a system, which you will have in a hierarchy, Jordan Peterson explains this very clearly, in a hierarchy you will have a small proportion doing very well, and you will have a reasonable number of people doing okay. And then you will have a base at the bottom who do badly.
Yeah.
And that is built into the system. And as long as those conditions exist, there are other conditions for socialists.
But the funny thing is that capitalism, basically, what we now consider badly, is still rich in most of the countries that don't have capitalism.
Yeah.
Sorry, still?
It's still rich in most of the countries that don't have capitalism.
So, sorry.
Don't get me wrong. Every American in America
I'm not
belongs to the
that.
1%.
I'm not disputing that. As I said, wealth is relative.
Yeah.
And as long as you have it's like the people in Britain today, I can't talk about other countries, even in Britain today, who've never worked in their life and they're living on benefits and they are living in the lap of luxury compared to a hard-working family in the 1950s.
Yeah.
Because our society has produced so much wealth, it can afford to sustain that. However, to those people, they are still suffering. They still think it's so terrible.
Yeah, I think it's because people compare their life to like the lives of other people.
Yeah.
Like if you look at your life, you may be happy, but as soon as you see somebody else's life, especially if you are poor or, well, maybe not poor, but in the lower classes, and you see too many people do better than you, and you don't have a strong sense of community with these people, the jealousy would take over, especially when you consider the fact that there are people that would flaunt their wealth. They would not just have wealth, they would flaunt it and rub it into other people's faces, which makes people more jealous. And then they want socialism because they want the wealth to be redistributed so that it could be all even, so that they won't be jealous anymore.
But they don't understand human nature, economics, or many other important factors, sadly.
But that would be also something that Maud said, and I have to agree with that, at least partly, because he asked, doesn't mean that we failed with raising our children, because this is the thing that, it's something Jordan Peterson pointed once, that the first generation of migrants do way better than their children, because their children don't have the necessity that the first generation of migrants, so the parents, had, right?
Yeah.
I think part of it is how you raise your children. I think part of it is make them aware, and the education, the fact that they cannot compare themselves to the people from 50 years ago. That's really failure in education and raising.
No, I think there's two separate things. The education I'm 100% with, okay, and sadly the education has been subject to ideological manipulation for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
However, with the families, yes, to a degree, you could protect your children. Unfortunately, we live in society. Children don't only have a family; they have friends, they have a social life, and it's very hard when you have lots of individuals all under the same pressure, and it becomes a self-reinforcing trend to then go and look at one individual and say, "Why aren't you swimming against this unswimmable tide?" Where do you put the onus? And the problem is we don't want to be authoritarian, and yet the only solution to that would be to authoritarianly tell all parents what they have to do. And so you're caught between.
Yeah, but we have to sorry, but we have to acknowledge we failed somewhere with the raising as well. If many children, they just
you had a chance, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, say you failed is a blaming word, and I think we have to be very careful about blaming, because hindsight's a wonderful thing, but as has been said, every parent wants to spare their child from what they had to go through.
Yeah, and I think this is the problem that
by making the world better, we in fact set up our children to fail.
Yes, and what I mean, you see, I am still asking if we didn't fail. I mean, there is someone we know with with Mod, and that person actually goes to the college she teaches people, right, young people, and she said that it's amazingly and scary to her when she realized that young people, and it's not that there is always 2 or 3 idiots in the class. No, that roughly 60 to 80% of the young people, they basically say they don't want to have full-time job. They want to work 2, maybe 3 days a week. That when she asks, okay, but how do you expect to pay your bills? They will still live with their parents. And then she goes further into say, yeah, mate, the thing is, your parents one day will die. How do you expect to sustain yourself? Like have a house, even if it's rented, pay your bills from 2 or 3 days of work, right? And then the answer basically is, yeah, but I don't want to work 40 hours a week. I don't want to just work, and I don't like it. And she's like, don't you think your parents also didn't want necessarily to work long shifts, but it's still what has to be done. We don't teach our children to still do what needs to be done. And
No, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying I don't see a solution because no parent can protect their children from the influence of all the other families.
you know what? Yes and no. It is very difficult, but you don't have to go with the mainstream. You don't have to.
I didn't say you have to go with the mainstream. I'm saying, right, you're a parent, right? So you take your son and you teach him all the right things. But your son will go to school and will talk to other children whose parents aren't telling him those things, but are telling them something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And might go to visit their friends at their parents' house when he's older, and it's the same thing. And what I'm saying is for all what you do, there's still a society. And it's very hard, without being authoritarian, to change the whole attitude in society.
That's true, but then as a society, we failed our children.
Yeah, but the problem is as a society doesn't actually help. Because I do what I do, you do what you do, we don't do anything as a society. Each society just the collective accumulated.
No, I think we have everybody. That's indeed the generation of parents who has a really good, they think they have really bad.
Yes,
and the generation of parents,
as all those people as individuals, not all those people as one.
Yeah, that's true. And you remind me of the conversation I had not so long ago with the teachers and some parents, and I can't remember why the conversation started really, but I basically said that I really don't want my kids to get participation medal just because it was a sport day at school, for example, and one of the mothers said, yeah, but how are you gonna do that? I said, I don't know that yet. I crossed that bridge when I came when I was came to it. But the thing is that I don't think it's the right thing to do.
I agree.
But the mother said, like, the life became so difficult, and she also then said, yeah, but you have to go. But this is our society, and you have to go with it. And the conversation shifted into something different very fast, and I had to leave, to be honest, because of something else. So we really couldn't continue. But I remember walking back home, and I thought, like, why? What does it make her feel and say and think that you have to go with the society? Why people don't think, wait a second, we are the society, and if I don't want something, I can speak up against it.
Yeah, but ultimately, if you're the only one and everyone else thinks the opposite.
She doesn't. She said she agrees with me. She also tries to set it straight at home.
I was generalizing. You're saying you can still,
yeah,
go, speak up, but eventually a decision is reached, and if you lose on the decision, you lose on the decision. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, I'm going to do what I want no matter what anyone else does, and we need to have a consensus and agree what to do. You do one or you do the other.
But there is, in general, we have to agree things, but at the same time,
and that's my point.
But in general, how far back you want to go? Because at the same time, yes, I will teach my son that the participation medal means fuck all.
Here's the thing. You're a lot younger than I am, and when I was growing up, people were thinking they were doing the right thing. Hindsight's wonderful. None of these things happened with people who wanted to mess everything up. People thought they were making it better. See, here's the thing.
Yeah.
So you're in an environment and you're not particularly competitive, or you're not the sort of person who wins. So you think, I don't like competition. Let's pressure against competition. Because that's your bias from your experience of how it used to be. And because most people weren't the winners, that can be popular. The problem is that we then see the consequence of that, which is everyone gets a participation trophy. No one knows what competing is. No one can have their opinions opposed without having a tantrum. But people were reacting to try and improve things from their own particular perspective. But in fact, it would have been lovely to have everyone sat down and had a proper discussion, but we know life's not like that.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up a very good point, Tommy. If you are always last place, if you're constantly last place, then you're not going to like a competition very well, because people would laugh at you, people would make fun of you and treat you poorly because you're the slowest runner. Nobody would want you on their team. If you're terrible at sports, nobody would want to pick you up. So people get upset, frustrated, and then they would say, like, okay, no competition. Maybe a better solution would be possibly have more choices where people who are great at competition could opt in, but somebody who is terrible at competition could just do archery or canoeing or something like that.
Yeah. How did you know I was always the worst?
Huh?
How did you know I was always the worst? I was always the last one picked. I was dreadful at sport.
When this is again part of racing, when I was also definitely with most of things, I wasn't fast enough. I wasn't, I developed later. I like will be stronger, and I never was fast. But the thing is that when I look at my basic school, it's a lot of from how you were brought up, because I never got told that it's unfair that I didn't win or I didn't get picked. I got told because I'm not good enough, and there are two options: I don't do it at all, or I try to better myself. And when I try to better myself, I also got told, well, there is an option, you really will be good enough, or maybe it's just not your thing, in which case you look for something else to do. If you are a bad runner and there is no way you can actually improve over certain, time, then maybe you could, I'm just now saying just an examples, right? Maybe you could look into swimming or kicking the ball or whatever. And therefore, me being at some point, at least in my school, the last one at school, never had this emotion that I hated or whatever. Even at the point when I just like said, whatever, at this I'm not going to win anyway. I don't even want to try because I know I suck. And that actually influences a lot of thinking in my life. I don't know. There is still something that part that Maud says. It's also how you are raised. Because I would, it's just, but because I recognize John and Rin what you said. People look, people look at how they are and why they don't like things, or rather they actually realizing they don't like something, they don't want something, but it's purely if they weren't successful in it. It's just that it's not for me, not on the scale like that. I don't know how to put it better, what I mean. Sorry, it's too late for me.
No, I mean, these things are always complex. What bothers me about like the left is they talk about things that happened as if people are doing things that create bad outcomes on purpose, when they're just how it turned out, and no one would have done what they did if they'd known. But we haven't got hindsight, and therefore, you know, it's, as I say, yes, there were things that everyone did, you know, the helicopter parenting and whatever, that turned out to be a bad idea, as far as we can tell.
Yeah, but we're still pushing for it.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Some
we
are
see it's not
pushing
working,
Some
and we're still
are
pushing for it.
And in order to get a societal change, you need awareness. So I'm sure, like where Alicia is, they don't have it in a way the same way because they're clued in.
It's
Anyway, I like the back and forth, but considering the time, and I did say last week I was trying to go back to 1 hour. So
Well, it shows it was a better one this week.
well, there you have it.
Not that it was bad last week.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, I think we had a very good conversation, and I think you brought up a lot of good points, John.
All right.
I have a few, but not many. Sorry, I'm just laughing at myself. My brain's been frizzled by the sun.
Yeah, it's too hot here.
Can I ask you Squarepack?
1 second. Go on.
Squarepack, I just saw the chat, and I want to answer that. Were any of you allowed to feel sorry for yourselves? We were not permitted to be crybabies. Millennials are a lot of the millennials and a lot of the left are big crybabies. Indeed, somehow, and I don't know how much you're going to see it as relevant, Squarepack, but somehow I have to remember Polish movie from how we were raised back in the 80s and 90s, and by for example things like there is a bad road to go to school or go somewhere, but you were not allowed to be hit by the car because then you actually would get in trouble at home. If I would get hit by the car, of course, if I would ended up in hospital, for example, then of course first my mother would hug me and whatever. But if I would get hit by a car just a little bit, like broken leg or something, and I would be already like 10 or 5, I actually would get in trouble with my parents because they would tell me to think better, look better. So no, you were not allowed to feel sorry for yourself. You were not allowed to be bitching and moaning that you didn't win something, that you weren't good enough. This is, yeah, I really had to think about that. How much different of it. You fell from somewhere and you actually got told that you are an idiot and you have to look what you're doing, and it came everywhere. The bad grades at school, not being good at sports, whatever. You're not allowed to bitch and moan about yourself and how bad you have.
Yeah, it's about taking responsibility, and being a victim and not taking responsibility is the mantra of much of politics these days.
Not just politics. I notice in my work that a lot of kids kind of are taught not to take responsibility.
Yeah, but it's all comes through the politics. It's all ideological.
Well, it's a problem.
No, it comes out of this postmodernist ideology, because all these things are linked. as soon as they went into race and whatever, after economic Marxism was shown to have failed, victim mentality became the number one tool.
Yeah. And that really is a problem. And I really hope, for example, with our kid, I really hope that we'll teach him to be responsible for himself.
Well, with any luck, because they're saying with the next generation of American children, there's already a backlash against the SJW mentality. So hopefully by then it'll have all blown over.
Yeah, true that.
Because, I mean, and to be honest, it's you kind of have to feel sorry for the kids themselves, because they didn't do this to themselves.
No, that's the thing. It's
and they're going to struggle all their lives with it because they haven't learned how to be people.
But it's the same if we look, for example, at, and this is completely different, but it's the same thing, to be honest. If we look at transgenderism, there is such an incredible push for transgenderism that even within the psychological healthcare, psychiatry, there are actually people who are now pushing the idea, workers, educated people, who are pushing the idea that, yeah, you know what, it's so perfectly all right to be transgender. And the problem is not that it's...
No, but the trouble is that it might be all right to be transgender, it just doesn't mean that you should be one when you're not.
I mean, the thing is, it's perfectly all right to be someone with a depression. I mean, you are a person with a depression. You need to learn to live with it. You need to...
but transgenderism isn't the same as depression, as in a lot of people have depression who aren't transgender or ever inclined to be transgender.
Yeah, but the thing is, with transgenderism, it's mostly based on gender dysphoria.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, but if you start talking about in terms of depression, say, oh, it's all right to have depression, but having depression is not synonymous with being transgender, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but no psychological ailment is synonymous with another psychological ailment.
But, yeah, but you were sorry, it sounded like you were saying it was.
But certain approaches are similar, though. You don't blame someone for the ailment that they have.
No.
You don't adjust the world to give them the feeling that they do not have an ailment.
Well, no, and the problem is you don't. What's the word? You don't indulge.
Yeah.
People's fantasies, and you don't help them be deluded.
You don't go along in their psychosis, really.
Yeah.
And this is true for every single problem out there. You can have...
It's part of this same, failing to teach responsibility and any kind of mental robustness.
But we actually see this happening on people who should know better, is an easy way to say it, but who are educated enough to know better, not to should.
You're assuming they don't.
But they still push along. And that's...
because they're ideologues. Ideologues don't do things because they're right or because of what they know. They do things because of what they believe.
Yeah, this is the earth is flat kind of mentality.
Mm-hmm. Anyone who's an ideologue suffers from the same mental processes.
It's worrying, though.
It's where we start with Sadiq Khan being able to, with the straight face, say, "Oh, I wouldn't ban it. Anyone's right to protest and anyone's right to free expression, as long as they agree with his position."
Yeah. And so we come back full circle, which is kind of the problem. We really need people to stand up. We really need to get this.
Yeah, but people are standing up, and all we can do is be people who stand up and encourage those we know to stand up. There's no good calling for anyone else to stand up.
True that.
All you can be in this world is an example.
Yeah. Well, you need to anyway. Anywho, considering the time, and because I'm really knackered, I'm sorry, guys. We are going to pull a close.
2 hours isn't bad.
No, it's not bad. We had a good run.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to say something before I'll pull the plug? And you're welcome, Ludicrous. Not sure if you're saying thank you to us, but you're welcome.
Well, leprechauns, they're mythical creatures, so they're a bit hard to read.
Rin, you want to say something?
Oh, I have a new video coming out tomorrow. I'm still busy editing it, but there are people who wanted to know about, well, there are people on the left, like, it's going to be kind of obvious, but there are people who are on the left or progressives who want to know my position or my solutions on how to fits the Black community, how to improve the lives of Black people, because they were complaining that when it comes to the anti-feminist community, like whenever they say, like, how do we have Black people, many don't give an answer, or it's an answer that they don't like, or they whatever. So they want to know, like, what's my position on what I think could be done to help the Black community. So that's what that's what tomorrow's video is going to be on.
Can I just say I would give the same answer that I gave to Modwain a minute ago. Tell them to be the change. Tell them they're the ones who've got to stand up. There's no good looking externally for ideas and help in the long run.
That's the thing. I agree with John on that one. And maybe it's something to talk about altogether next time. Because if I look, for example, in America, the best thing that minorities in America, but not just in America, all over the Western world, the best thing they can do to get a better position is to start doing things and start waiting for handouts. And there are so many people. I mean, if we look, Trump did a good job because the lowest unemployment among Black people and the lowest unemployment among Hispanics since forever, since the longest time. But at the same time, because this is not just up to Trump, this also means that there are lots of Black people and Hispanic people who are actually looking for a job. Because it's not just that there are jobs, but there are people willing to do these jobs. There are not enough jobs for all the people. The fact that people are busy, that they are trying to fill the niches, means that they are slowly moving away from the democratic mentality. And this is a good thing to me, because people are recognizing that they have more or less somewhat control in their life. Anyway, I'm starting all over again. I should be doing that. It's a great... I'll look forward to your video, Rin, and maybe it'll be a good topic next week.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, I hope you guys would watch.
Mm.
I'll look out for it.
I definitely...
All right, yeah, it's going to be tomorrow, so, be on the lookout.
No, I definitely will watch it. Anyway, John, when
Me?
the videos again, mate?
Yeah, no.
No?
Hey, I did a guest appearance in one of Sargon's streams.
Yeah, you did, actually. I am somewhat... You actually spoke to him and he actually answered to you.
And the BBC picked up on the point.
But yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
I didn't fluff my line. I asked politely and clearly. Yep.
People, this is true. John is part of one of the Sargon's big videos. Well, which one was it? The one of an hour?
It was the BBC interview one.
Yeah, the BBC interview one. I used the very last bit of that video clip to make my last video clip. It's the lie by omission based on the Statue of Liberty one. Have you seen it, John?
No, sorry, I'm just laughing at Alicia.
Nice though.
You should share on your channel. Well, that's a good point.
No.
But yeah, no, my last video came because of that video of Sargon. Because once again, you hear one of those leftist bullshitters talking about, yeah, but the Statue of Liberty says, give us your poor, your huddled masses.
There is nothing so ignorant as those people.
No, I noticed. I was somewhat amazed at how well Sargon kept his cool.
No, you have to, and you know he's well practiced. You know,
True that, but he's getting better at it. I mean, if I look at this one compared to a few years ago, with that, who was he talking to? Can't remember.
well,
Kristen Winters?
he had that what's his name? Richard Spencer, Millennial Woe stream.
Yeah, I can't remember. What is it?
That didn't go well.
Guys, I'm sorry. I just want to say good night because it's really time for me to go to bed. Thank you for stream. Thank you, everyone in the chat, and I will see you next time.
Yeah. Good night, young lady. Have a good one.
Young lady, huh?
Yeah, well, you are. Everyone's young compared to me, more or less.
Anyway, and yes, Square Peg, you're right. It is stupid. It is a poem. But the one thing that I found stupid is that the poem, even in the poem, it ends with yearning to breathe, not yearning to oppress others. But anyway, good night, everyone. Thank you, John. Thank you, Rin. Rin, I am looking forward to your video, and I think we should make it the topic of next week if you're okay with it.
All right.
Well, if you don't want to, it's okay. Then say no.
I said all right.
Okay, fair enough. I'd like to thank everyone for coming, and I hope to see you all next time. And now I'm pushing the button to stop broadcasting, so let's see how long it waits.